Ois Chai, Ois Yud Ches. So the Rebbe continues to explain now that through the level of Goyrel, which is higher than Medida V'Hagbola, not only do we conquer the land, but we actually divide the land, which means you settle it in, as the Rebbe will explain. So let's look inside. Chai. והנה על ידי העבודה דגוירל הנ"ל יכולק הארץ. Through this service that we were discussing before, the level of goyrel, which is the neis b'toich neis, the level of yechida, the level which is beyond the reason, it's a level of a goyrel. The avoida, so the pasuk says, "Al pi hagoyrel yecholek haaretz." You divide up the land. Now, what does it mean dividing up the land? Hainu shenas enois afal kibush haaretz yecholek haaretz. That means that in addition to conquering the land, you're also dividing up the land. Shu inyan ha'is yashus. To divide the land means to settle it in, to settle down in the land that you conquered. As our sages of blessed memory said, the v'yorashto v'yoshavto bo, when the Torah says with regards to bikurim, kisov elor v'yorashto v'yoshavto bo, what does it mean? First it says v'yorashto, and then it says yoshavto. That's the chiluk. That's the distribution. That is hainu la'achar sheva shekovshu v'sheva shecholku. So that's after the 7 years that it took to conquer the land of Eretz Yisrael, and then you have the seven that they divided it up. V'oz huschal iker inyan kiyum mitzvahs hatluyos ba'aretz. Only then, after the 14 years, 7 and 7. So after the distribution, that is when it started the main observance of the mitzvahs, which you need Eretz Yisrael. What does this mean metaphorically to inherit the Eretz Shalamaylo, the Olam Habo? Balderech zeh be'inyan Eretz Shalamaylo. And similarly is also in the Eretz above, Olam Habo, Shehu schar hamitzvus, Elam haba, which is the reward for the mitzvahs. The zeh shekol Yisrael yesh lahem chelik le'olam haba. Why is it? How come all Yidden have a part in the world to come? Umitzad zeh, mitzad the goydel, mitzad zeh sheyeshno b'chinas hagoydel, because there is the level of goydel. The ato toimech goroli eitzel kol echad v'echad misrael. He says ato. The Eberster Dafke, as you said before, the level of ato is the one that supports goyroli, the level of goyrol, by every single yid. So every single yid has the level of goyrol, and because of that, every yid has a part in the Ilmabo. וגם מי שבגולוי אין נקרא אצלו עניין של טוב וקדושו, even someone who openly you can't tell that there is good and holiness, יש לו בחינס גדול בנפשי, he still has the level of girdle in his soul. באדרבה. On the contrary, not only does the one who does not openly appear to have good and kedusha have a soul, but yochaliyas, it's possible, possible. Shedavke etzlo yeshno neshama kedusha v'yosef, that dafke by him there exists a very holy soul. Umishum zeh, and because of that great soul that the person has, he can turn himself around in one moment and in one instance, sheyiyeh betachlis hashlemus de kedusha, that he should be in the ultimate level of wholesomeness in kedusha. That person, because he has such a great neshama, is quicker to turn himself around than others because of that great neshama that he has. And that's by every yid, and therefore it's called Yisrael Yesh Lam Chelik Leilam Haba, because every yid has that level of Geru. And the Rebbe explains this now from the statement of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that we see that the essence of the neshama cannot be measured by what the practical thing that the person is doing. Over here we see by Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, even though he was a great tzaddik, he was still concerned what's going on with his neshama. That his neshama may not reflect, his essence of the neshama may not reflect that which he is on the outside. That while on the outside he's a tzaddik, maybe that etzem neshama is not. That's what is his concern, as we'll see. But if we say that the outside in the negative, in the positive, I mean, he's still positive, that you don't know, but so meruba midatova, which means in this case when a person is not doing proper things, for sure that's not reflective of the etzem neshama. Let's look inside. Humans will understand it based on that which is explained in many places. In the matter that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, he was crying, the Gemara says, before he was about to pass away. He was crying. He says, I don't know which direction they're leading me. Why didn't he know, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that he's going directly to Gan Eden because he was such a tzaddik? So the explanation is that even though his service was on a very elevated level, as explained in many places, because Omar still he said, I don't know. So what was his question? If the service which is from the essence of his soul, he wasn't sure if the etzem nefesh was kidaboy. Because it's not evidence from his avodah. The fact that in the koiches hageluyim openly he was a tzaddik, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai doesn't necessarily prove the level which is higher than reason and rationale, the level of his etzem neshama. Maybe his etzem neshama is no good. But but the measure of good is more than the measure of the negative, which means the gam eitzel misha bekoiches hageluyim shaloi ein nira shum inyan toiv. Even somebody who, when you look at his revealed powers, you see nothing good. So that does not prove anything at all on the higher level. So b'meila, the fact that the person you can't tell anin tev shel kedusha is still ato toimech goroli, and it's still yesh l'chelik l'olam haba. Especially shall kol echad v'echad miYisrael nemar, about each and every yid is said ashreinu chulu manoim gorolenu. So we say manoim gorolenu. How sweet is our lot! Every yid says that he has the gorol. Every yid says that manoim gorolenu. So it's very clear that he has a very great soul. ויש לו הכוח להזהפכו ולהסגבר וכולו. And he has the power to turn around and to overpower, etc. Afilu I bim hoya etzlich chas v'sholem. So he can turn around if, God forbid, by him was a helen v'hester shel sichlei u'machshova duvru ma'aser shaloi b'meshech mechayev, that there was a block and obscurity of his intellect, his speech, thought, and action during his lifetime. He could have been lifetime, and yet he has that goyrel, manoim goyrelenu, and he can turn himself around in one moment. Valderech Rabbi Lezer ben Durdaya shekona ilomay b'shoachas. This would be similar as the Gemara tells the story of Rabbi Lezer ben Durdaya, that he turned over himself in one moment. He did tshuva and he lived a whole life in a negative way, and then last minute he did tshuva, and in 1 minute he turned himself around and he went to Olam Haba. So that means that we all have the ability b'shoah achas to turn ourselves around, even if we lived a life not consistent with Torah mitzvahs. So now we're saying that api hagoyrel yecholik haaretz. The Rebbe says that this applies, that the way we get Olam Haba is based on our etzem haneshama. So just as it is b'inyan chalukas haaretz shel mailo, which is Olam Haba, shehi mitzad b'chinas hagoyrel sheyeshna etzel kol echad v'echad miYisrael, which comes because of that level of goyrel that every Yid, each and every one of the Yidden has the level of Geirul, he gets Olam Haba. Al derech zeu b'inyan kibush v'chalukas haaretz kipshutei. Similarly, it's also in the conquering and dividing up the land of Eretz Yisrael, literally. Shehu mitzad b'chinas hagoyrel sheyesh neitz kol echad v'echad miYisrael. That is, why does everybody get that portion in Eretz Yisrael kipshutei? Is because of the goyrel that each and every one has possesses. Shalochein Eretz Yisrael shayeches lebnei Yisrael. That's why Eretz Yisrael belongs to the Yidden bivris olam, with an eternal covenant, lizaracho acharecho lachuzas olam, to your seed following you, which the Eibishter made the covenant with Avram. And he said that the seed following you, lachuzas olam, for eternal inheritance. Why does Eretz Yisrael belong to everybody? Because we all have the level of the Geirel. Shehirusha lonu me'Avram. That is an inheritance from Avram, as the Pasuk says, Koishet Selo. Nosato lirecho neislis noises mipnei koishet selo, because of the eternal truth. Mibris ben absorim. This is from the time of the covenant amongst the pieces, which Hashem made with Avram Avinu. That is the eternal achuzas olam that we all inherit. Eretz Shiva Umas, that is the level of the seventh nation. But the Eibishter also told them about the Keni Knizve Kadmoni, which will be later on. The Noisuf Alzer, Yarchiv Havayes Gevulcha. Hashem will widen your territory, make your territory bigger. And the Pasuk says, when you add the Moreh Miklat, so the Eibishter makes it even bigger, which means he gives us not only the seven nations, the land, but also the land of Keni Knizve Kadmoni, She'eretz HaKaini Knizve Kadmoni, which is the land of Keni Knizve Kadmoni, Kibafurish Bebris Ben Absorim, as articulated when the Eibishter spoke to Avraham. He told him about the 7 right-of-ways, and then Yarchiv Hashem, he'll get the additional 3. V'yesher k'mvuer b'drusha medrash Razal sheyarchiv havayes gevulcha hi, as it's explained in the Medrashim, of our sage of blessed memory that when we say Hashem will widen your territory, that it's going to be wide, totally in comparison to what it was before. So this is Mipnei Koshet Sela, the connection that we have from Avraham Avinu, and that's the level of the Geirel, and we each one inherit both the physical world and also Elam Haba, because that level of the Geirel that we have. Yutes. Yezeu nasato lireyecha neis lihisnoises mipnei koshet selo. So the Eibishter gave us the nisyonis, and that comes from the koshet selo, from the eternal truth. The kushtei de Avram. Koshet is the truth of the nisyonis of Avram Avinu, and the kushtei de Avram u'ba'ifun shel selo lolmin. That the Avram's truth, the koshet, his truth, his selo is forever. Lolmin. Da'afilu b'soif, and that's the nisyonis to stand strong. Da'afilu b'soif kol olmin, even at the end of all the worlds. B'dora the ikvasa de Mashiach, in the generation of the hills of Mashiach. Ubazeh gufo, and within the hills of Mashiach, b'regoyim ha'achronim shel ha'golus, in the last moments of Golus. Hine avodas Yisrael hi metoich mesiras nefesh. The Yidden's service is with mesiras nefesh, the kushta de Avram, the mesiras nefesh Avram. That's what the Yidden work la'olmim, even at the end. Chinas neis betoich neis shebenefesh. That is the level of neis, neis lihisnoises, the neis betoich neis in the soul, the most inner part of the soul. The loy rak sheyesh etzlam inyan hakronis, so that because of the mesiras nefesh, not only they get the kronis, chol karne rishoy magadeya tremamno karnes tzadik. So it's not only that because we withstand the nisyonis, and we see that all of the karne rishoyim is only on nisoyin, and therefore there will be a keren, but it will be tremamno karnes Yisrael. Elo oizois, but furthermore, shehem be'oifon shel tremamno karnes tzadik. You raise the horn itself is noch raised on higher than just being a horn. Rashi, the koyi al Yisrael, that who is the karnes tzadik, the horns of the tzadik, refers to, goes on the Yidden. Shehem shvachai shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu tzadika shel olam. They are the praise, the Yidden are Hashem's praise, who is the tzaddik of the world. So the koronis of the Yidden, which are praising Hashem, who is the tzaddik of the world. And that way they are salvaged and they are helped. The Yemincha is helped. Shegoylim hayemin shabizman hagolus. Shegoylim hayemin. We redeem Haishir Mincha Vanenu. Shabizman hagolus hibaoifen the Haishim acher yemine. During the time of Golus, it's in such a way that the Eibishter's Yemin is turned backwards. But now, through the level Nosato lireyecha neis lihisnoises, the neis b'toich neis, the etzem hanefesh, you actually redeem. Shegoylim hayemin shebizman hagolus, no, shegoylim hayemin, v'al yidei shemizgale bechinas koyrel etzokol echad echad. That is by revealing the level of the goyrel which everyone has. The vatamed legoyrolcha, as the pasuk says, lekeitz hayomin, that you will stand with the goyrel when it'll end at the end of the yomim, when it will be revealed. The bechinas ato toimich goroli, the level of the Eibishter supports goroli. V'al yidei zeh naseh, and that way it takes place. Ach begoyrol Yecholik as haaretz, that with the lottery you split the land of Vezan Eschoshe B'Ksav Yad HaMamorim. And there's the two languages in the handwriting of the Maimorim, either Ach Begerel Yecholik or Techolik. Chalukas haaretz kipshute. So there's dividing up the lands literally, the enini yotze medei pshute, because the every matter does not go out from its simple meaning. So when we say splitting the land, while we're talking about the land above, we're talking about the Geidel, we're talking about Elam Haba, we're talking about literally also Yecholek haaretz, L'mata Masot Tfachim. But this should be below 10 Tfachim, Begeula Hamitis Vashlema, with the true and complete redemption of the Mashiach Tzidkenu, righteous Mashiach, Sha'oz Yiyah Kibush Eretz Yisrael Hashlema, then we will conquer complete Eretz Yisrael. And after first the seven nations will be Kibush Eretz Hakeni Knizi Vakadmoni, that will conquer also the land of the Keni Knizi Vakadmoni. Hashem will widen even more an inheritance which has no boundaries. So it's not the Keni Knizi Kadmoni, but it's a lot more, no boundaries. Since all this takes place through the level of Geidel, Shehi Lemaila Mitam Vadas, which is above reason and rationale. That's why this doesn't need, there's no need for, doesn't have to take a long time. Kim Beloshin Admur Hazokin, but as the Alter Rebbe writes, the Yoim Shekuli Aruch, we talk about Olam Haba, that it's a day that is all long. Just in the very beginning, it's long, which means just from the start, it is unlimited. The Beshaita Chodo, that in one moment, Bo Hagula Mitzvah Shlema, comes the true and complete redemption in Kol HaProtim B'Shlemus Shabo, with all the detail, all the wholesomeness in it. Ad ki yarchu avayas gevulcha, until Hashem widens your territory. Al yidei Hashem davke, yarchiv Hashem elekecha. Al derech da'ato daike temich garoli. It says yarchiv, not stam yach, but yarchiv Hashem, like a similar ato daike temich garol, that it's ato, it's you, the level of atzmus, the level of havaya, which is yarchiv. Because this is all in this higher level, from the level of Geidel, the level of Atik, as he spoke about before. B'korev Mamish, B'biyas Mashiach Tzidkenu, very soon with the coming of a righteous Mashiach. Sha'kodesh Baruch Hu Melech Es Yisrael, B'koymes Kufa, Hashem leads the Jewish people with a upright Begula Hamitis V'Hashlema, in the true and complete redemption. V'yorem Keren Mashiach, he will raise the horn of Mashiach. V'yhavchu Yomim Elu L'sosin U'Lesimcha L'Medim Tovim. So these days should be turned around for Sosin L'Simcha L'Medim Tovim Begola Didan very soon.